You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a professional motivational speaker, Nancy can assist you to blow through your setbacks and start living full out. If you have an inspirational story you want to share, email us at connect@livingfullout.com. Once again, here's Nancy.
Hello and welcome to the Living Full Out Show. My name is Nancy Solari, and today we're going to be focusing on being forgiving, sometimes to yourself, sometimes to others. It's just really letting go of those, some people call them baggage from our past, or toxic people that maybe in your life you have to let go of, or maybe limiting beliefs, things that are holding you back, that aren't allowing you to thrive in the best way possible. We also are going to be joined in our next segment by our inspirational guest, Peter Young, who had to navigate a very stressful situation, a family cult situation. And I call it a situation because you'll know what I mean. If you're joining a third-party cult, it's a little bit easier to leave than it's when it's within the family, and there's a lot of layers to it. So we're going to be diagnosing that and pulling back those layers so you can understand the story and look out for the signs that you may or may not be being pulled into a cult. It's very important. And we want to make sure that beyond today's show that you are supported. And you can go to livingfullout.com to hear today's episode or any of our shows again. Just look for the theme that resonates with what you're going through. And if you have Alexa, remember you can put us in as a skill, Living Full Out, and listen to us at home. Now, I'm getting word from our producer that we do have a listener on the line. We're going to go check in with them. Hello, welcome to the Living Full Out Show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Hi, thank you for calling in. And how can I help you today?
I actually have a question for you, Nancy. My question is, what tips do you suggest to like a college student who is trying to get started in their career choice, like i.e. getting an internship, basically?
Well, what is it that you want to do?
Like, I want to just try and get started with an internship, but I don't know where to start. It's like there's a whole bunch of opportunities online and stuff like that, but it's like I'm not sure which one is exactly for me.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you say online and then immediately you were like, are you weary of them?
It's not like I'm weary. It's just like I don't know, like, exactly which one to choose because there's so many. But it's like I know, like, I want an internship, but I'm not like sure.
Yeah,
like, kind of.
And what year in school are you right now?
I'm a junior.
You're a junior.
Incoming junior.
Incoming junior. All right. Well, this is the
Yeah.
time, right, to start building that resume.
Yeah.
So let's, in applying for an internship, because obviously if you apply, they might say yes. If they said yes, any one of those, are you nervous about if it'll be too hard? Do you think it'll be easy? Are you worried about the unknown?
Yeah. And yeah, the unknown, kind of, basically. Like my credentials, maybe it's not enough, stuff like that, you know.
Have you ever had a job where I've had a lot of jobs. I was the worst waitress server ever. Okay. So, I mean, I literally poured food on people. It was not a good situation. So that it was not going to be my career choice. But have you ever had a job that you took on and you weren't really good at it?
Yeah. Like, I worked in retail. I think my first job was Burlington.
Okay.
I sucked at that one. Like, I think it was just the atmosphere and, like, yeah, it just wasn't good.
Okay, so you worked at Burlington and you sucked at it, just like I sucked at serving, right? Now, did you live and go on to have happy times after that? Like you were able to leave that job and still go to school and make friends and live a good life? Okay. Now, the reason why I say that is because even if you apply for any one of those internships, and the worst case scenario is you suck, maybe even worse than at Burlington, right?
Yeah.
An internship is usually for only a certain amount of time. It might be a month. It could be 5 months. It could be a year. Okay, they're all different. But worst case scenario is you go in there and it's a hot mess. right?
Yeah.
And maybe you leave, maybe they tell you to leave. Okay, let's just call out the elephant in the room, the worst case scenario. And the reason why I say this is sometimes just mentally, we just have to get it out there. Just journal about it, talk it out loud. Just the sky's the limit, right?
Yeah.
Because everybody has had moments where things haven't gone well. You know,
Mhm.
entertainers have had wardrobe malfunctions, right?
Yeah.
People have forgotten their words when they're trying to, be on stage in front of a live audience. So people say the wrong names when introducing someone. So I don't think anyone expects for you to be perfect, and I don't think you should expect yourself to be perfect. But I think you have to try. And when I asked you early on, what do you want to do? Right? It seems
Mhm.
like even that career is still being shaped, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, because my major in college right now is actually cybersecurity.
Okay.
Um, and that wasn't the initial major that I chose. I switched from computer science to cybersecurity. So I'm like, okay, I know I want to do something with tech, but there's like various fields in cybersecurity too. Like you don't have to work on like the security side. You can do like the analyst side. But I'm like, it's a whole bunch.
Here's what I
Like,
would do. Here's what I would do.
mhm,
I would find, whether it be on LinkedIn or whether it be in your local area, I would find somebody who has the job that you want one day. And if
okay,
you can meet with them in person, great. Over the phone is second best, and then email is third best. But
mhm,
I would set up a time, take them out to coffee, take them out to lunch, or just schedule a time on the phone and limit your questions, to like your top five, because every question will come with dialogue, or come up with
yeah,
10 questions, organize them in case you only get in your top five. But then I would find out from them, what are steps in their career they had wished they had done that they didn't? What are steps in their
mm,
career that they regret doing? And if they could tell you that, it might save you some time. You might also, once you build camaraderie with them, if they are in your local area, or even if you fly to where they are, maybe you could just shadow them for the day. And by
okay,
doing that, you're going to see, the day in the life of, right? Now, what
yeah,
I would also do, whether you learn what they do from them on that call, or whether you research it more yourself. An internship is not meant to just be like, it- you know, doing the ins and outs of the job you want. An internship is meant to learn various aspects of the larger picture. So when I was in school, I did 8 internships in my college career. And I
wow,
DJ'd, I played music, I was spinning the disc, and that was kind of fun. And then I anchored my college TV station, so I got to learn how to do a teleprompter and use that. I was a reporter. I did the one-man band deal, one woman deal,
cool,
and then I also went from there, and my game got bigger and bigger. I ended up going from Eugene, Oregon, at University of Oregon, up to Portland, and
mhm,
I would help associate produce a morning show. And then I went on from there, and I journeyed down to LA, and I got to support and watch the Lisa Gibbons talk show, and I got to see how a talk show got put together. Now,
cool,
why, and there were more, but why I mention
mhm,
that to you is every one of them taught me something different. Every one of them, like, either harnessed my writing skills, or they taught me about marketing, or they taught me about, just on camera work, you name it, sponsorship.
mhm,
So you're not going to get everything from one internship. But
mhm,
the unfortunate thing is, and this is the scary thing, I don't mean to say this, but it's just the truth. You have to think about every person who's going to graduate when you do, from every university, every college, every community college, every online college in the United States and the world, that is going to have your same major. And they're going to graduate the same week or month you do. And then you take all those people and you add it to the people that graduated the semester before you, and the semester before
mhm,
that. It's a lot of people. So
yeah,
that is why you want to jump in now and just get on your resume as much experience as you can. but have it be diverse experience that shows different layers to your personality and skills. But if you do that, I know you're going to be the big winner at the end, but you got to hit send. You got to submit.
Yeah.
Can you do that?
I believe I can. I think I can.
Okay. I believe I can better than I think I can. Choo-choo.
Okay.
But you can do this. Just say, I can. I will. Just be intentional and hop to it. But you will be great. I promise you. Okay. I believe in you. Okay.
Thank you.
You got it. Thank you. And for everyone, we are going to be coming right back with Peter Young. Again, it's really an amazing story, one that I hope we don't all go into a cult situation, but if you do, he's got some wisdom for you. We'll be right back.
Life looks a little different. During these times, we're doing our best to keep our minds and bodies strong. And getting a flu shot helps us stay healthy, so we don't miss out on what matters. Like having game night at home. Yeah, can't do that while sick with the flu. Now imagine family movie night that your daughter can't live without. Well, that's ruined. And don't forget your uncle's socially distanced cookout. See, that's why it's important to be at our strongest. Every year, millions of people in the U.S. get the flu. Especially now, no one has time to miss out on moments that matter. So get your flu shot. Find out more at getmyflushot.org. Brought to you by the AMA, CDC, and the Ad Council.
Don't you wish your life came with a warning app?
Stop. That dog does not want to be petted.
Just a little heads up before something bad happens.
Move your coffee cup away from your computer.
Oh, no.
So you can have more control.
Stop. You're texting your boss by mistake.
Uh-oh. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes like managing your weight, getting active, stopping smoking, and eating healthier, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. It's easy to learn your risk. Take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Warning. The cap is loose on that ketchup.
Ugh. Don't wait. You have the power to change the outcome. Visit doihaveprediabetes.org today. That's doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
Uh-oh, Brad's buzzed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's starting with the woots. And now a speech.
I just want to say that friendship is about heart and brain. Who's with me?
Good thing is, he knows when he's buzzed.
And my brain is saying, when it's time to go home, somebody call me a ride.
Love that guy.
Me too.
Know your buzzed warning signs? Call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Watch out! You got me!
The galaxy is safe once again.
In the pretend universe, kids play with pretend guns. In the real world, it's up to us to make sure they don't get their hands on a real gun. If you have a gun in the house, keep it locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad, just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a life coach, Nancy can teach you how to stay strong under pressure and work through challenges you face. Being legally blind, Nancy inspires others to be resilient in overcoming obstacles and live full out. You can ask Nancy for advice in your life on relationships, finance, business, health, and more. Just call in at 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. Now, here's Nancy.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Nancy Solari, and we are so excited to talk about today's topic, being forgiving, because honestly, it's hard to leap into our future and be excited about it and design it the way we want without letting go of the past, without forgiving others, forgiving ourselves, and really being able to be present with where we are today, but also, again, hopeful and excited for the future. And that can sometimes be easier said than done, especially if you are inspirational guest today, Peter Young, who went through a very cult-like situation with family members, and that's even more sticky than if they weren't, right? So how do you get out of that? So I'd very much like to welcome Peter to the show.
Thanks for having me, Nancy.
Well, Peter, I wish we were talking about you winning the lottery and all the amazing adventures you had. But, the thing I want to share with our audience, first of all, is in some ways you did win the lottery. And you will find out, our audience will learn that more as we journey along. But you did when it comes to your faith, and you did when it comes to really knowing as a man who you are today. I know early on in your life, you were born to a great family. You were the youngest, had 4 older brothers. And in college, you were nominated homecoming king twice. That was always good to be nominated, right? You journeyed along. You wanted to be a famous basketball player like Larry Bird. You wanted to be a famous coach like John Wooden. You would, just all the life goals and adventures that we would all have. Although you did stumble upon a book, What Color's Your Parachute, that really gave you your career life direction. What did that teach you?
Well, I was really floundering at the time, didn't know what I wanted to do. So then it really helped point out, well, here's what I love. And I love talking about sports and telling stories. So after I read it, I decided, you know what, I'm going to be a sports broadcaster. And I wanted to be the next Bob Costas of sports broadcasting. And I loved it. So the book was a huge help.
Well, and I've been where you are. Back then, we both know it's peanut money. It's just enough to maybe pay one bill, right? You were making like $14,500 a year, which is, it's tricky. I bet you had a lot of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. But you grew. You did grow, and you did eventually make your way from Colorado to Idaho, small town. But you became a big fish in that small town. What were you doing?
So I was the weekday sports reporter, weekend sports anchor at the local ABC affiliate, and really big fish in a really little pond is the best way to put it. I was living in Pocatello, Idaho. Under 50,000 people, but everybody knew you. So in the grocery store, you got a lot of people looking at you, and it was great, wonderful times, despite no money.
Well, and you weren't making a lot of money, but you kept seeing this really gorgeous girl pop up all around town. You would see her in the stands. You would see, you even joined the same church she did, just so you could maybe meet her there. And her name is Paige. And eventually, the two of you met. And you knew pretty much right away she was the one, right?
Yeah, we met at a singles Bible study, which is why you go to one of those things, right? And we started dating shortly thereafter. Nancy, I would say probably within 2 weeks, I was 90% sure I wanted to marry this woman because she had everything that I was looking for in someone, and seemed like we were in love.
You know what is so interesting, though, is it's funny, we sometimes have to really, in the early stage, get past kind of the ooey gooey honeymoon stage of it all, because you did have someone whisper to you or say to you quite bluntly something that was concerning, almost forecasting what you were about to encounter. What did that friend tell you?
So I hadn't even met Paige yet. I didn't even know her name. I started describing this tall, beautiful blonde girl. And he said, oh, yeah, that's Paige and her sister. But be careful. They have a really weird family guru. And so I knew about the weird family guru, Uncle Robert, before I ever even met her.
Now, this family was quite strange. I mean, so strange that when you finally got to meet the parents, father's name is Jack, when you came out of the restroom one time, which is personal for all of us, when we go into the restroom, we assume we close the door and no one cares what we're doing in there. When you opened that bathroom door, what did Jack tell you?
He was standing really close to me, and I just met him. So it's around Thanksgiving, and I go up to Northern Idaho to meet Paige's parents, right? Like, interviewing for the job of son-in-law. And he said to me, in our house, the men need to sit down to pee. And he told me why. And then he said the phrase I don't know, I heard hundreds of times over the next 20 years, Uncle Robert taught us that.
And that's really kind of creepy, Peter, because, I'm not saying he was
Very
watching
creepy.
you peeing,
Yeah.
but, I mean,
No, he was outside listening. The door, it was creepy. Very odd. I thought, oh, my goodness.
Now, at this point, creepy factor's going up, but, you love this girl, right? And you end up, she ends up having this dream, and it's a really long story, the dream. But tell us about the dream real quick, just because it is really the catalyst to what caused so much of the angst going forward.
So she had this dream before she met me. She's in a house with a boyfriend at the time, and there's a tiger on the loose, and if it finds her, it's going to kill her. But the tiger represents all kinds of things that she admires and respects, strength and honor and intelligence, etc. But she doesn't want to kill the tiger, just wants to stay away from it. Door opens, a tall man comes in to get rid of the tiger. So her beloved Uncle Robert then interpreted this dream in a really long letter, sent it to Paige, which she then showed me shortly after we started dating. And Uncle Robert's like 5'6", I'm 6'5", and he tried to claim he was the tall man. And in essence, turned it around and said, Paige, you are the tiger in the dream, and thus you are not a Christian. And it was hugely important to her at the time. And because I didn't really see it at the time, I just thought it was kind of a weird letter, Nancy. I didn't know. I just met her. I'd never met Uncle Robert. But that dream and the misinterpretation still reverberates to this day.
Well, and you did finally meet Uncle Robert at her brother's wedding. And was he scary? Was he charming?
So that was a few months later. The only thing I really knew about him was what Paige said in this really weird letter. No, he I think typical of some narcissists, he's very charismatic. So to me, he seemed like somewhat, certainly not a danger, an interesting guy. I didn't get to talk to him very much, but I didn't see him as a threat, and I wasn't around him much. But I thought he's okay. Then I was ready to marry Paige.
Well, we are going to go to a quick break and come back right to this point, because oftentimes there's grooming. Oftentimes there's red flags that we see and that we hear, and then we don't always take action. We don't ask the right questions. And boy, Peter got an education on all of that as we journey along. So everybody stay with us. Today we are talking about being forgiving, and a lot of times that starts with forgiving ourselves. We'll be right back after this break.
Today in school, I learned a lot. In chemistry, I learned that no one likes me. In English, I learned that I'm disgusting. And in physics, I learned that I'm a loser.
Today in school, I learned that I'm ugly and useless. And in gym, I learned that I'm pathetic and a joke. In history, I learned that I'm trash.
Today in school, I learned that I have no friends. In English, I learned that I make people sick. And at lunch, I learned that I sit on my own because I smell. In chemistry, I learned that no one likes me.
In biology, I learned that I'm fat and stupid. And in math, I learned that I'm trash.
The only thing I didn't learn in school today?
The only thing I didn't learn today?
The only thing I didn't learn
is why no one ever helps.
Kids witness bullying every day. They want to help, but they don't know how. Teach them how to stop bullying and be more than a bystander at stopbullying.gov. A message from the Ad Council.
I'm Nancy Solari, certified life and business coach. I want to invite you to the Personal Development Boot Camp. During the boot camp, we're going to be looking at taking those insecurities that you have and getting rid of them. We're also going to look at ways in which you can thrive and live a life full of purpose. Go to livingfullout.com/bootcamp, livingfullout.com/bootcamp to sign up. I believe in you, and here's to you living your life full out.
They'll challenge your authority. They'll try to break your will. They'll push you to the edge of your sanity. Because that's what kids do. But this car is your territory, not theirs. Defend it. Who makes the payments? Who cleans it? Who drives it? You do. That's who. And in here, your word is law. So when you say you won't move until everyone's buckled up, you won't budge an inch. Until you hear that click. Never give up until they buckle up. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. For more information, visit safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup.
7 million children suffer from asthma, more than any other chronic disease. Most asthma attacks are caused by allergic reactions to allergens, including those left behind by cockroaches and mice. In fact, 82% of U.S. households contain mouse allergens, and cockroaches are found in up to 98% of urban homes. How can you protect your family? Find out at pestworld.org. A message from the National Pest Management Association and the American College of Allergy, Asthma, and Immunology.
Get it, slip it, cuff it, check it. Talk to doctor now and share it.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it twice a day.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it in the morning and before dinner.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it, and share it with my doctor. Nearly 1 in 2 U.S. adults have high blood pressure. That's why it's important to self-monitor your blood pressure in 4 easy-to-remember steps. It starts with a monitor.
Now that I know my blood pressure numbers, I talked with my doctor. We're getting those numbers down.
Get it, slip it, cuff it, check it. Talk to doctor now and share it.
Be next to talk to your doctor about your blood pressure numbers. Get down with your blood pressure. Self-monitoring is power. Learn more at manageyourbp.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the American Heart Association, and the American Medical Association. In partnership with the Office of Minority Health and Health Resources and Services Administration.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. With Nancy's expertise, you'll learn how to embrace your potential and strive for success. If you have a question or need further support, send us an email at connect@livingfullout.com. Now, here's Nancy.
Welcome back. I'm Nancy Solari, and this is the Living Full Out Show. And today we're talking about being forgiving. And again, that can come in many forms. A lot of times it could be ourselves, other people. And our inspirational guest today, Peter Young, dealing with a family cult, really challenged his faith. It challenged his entire being as a man, and where his future would lead. And that is such a tricky situation. And I want to go ahead and jump right back into the interview so you can learn how it unfolded. Welcome back, Peter.
Thanks, Nancy.
So in the last segment, you mentioned to us about Uncle Robert and this family guru. And finally, you did marry Paige, and you went on to have 5 kids. I mean, you yourself was, the youngest, and you had 4 older brothers, right? You were a family man. That made sense. But as you journeyed along, it kind of all went back to that letter. It went back to she wasn't saved. Her parents weren't saved. You weren't saved. And one by one, Uncle Robert did his ceremony and saved her and saved the parents. But you could never seem to be saved. How many times did he attempt to save you, even though you already were as a child?
Yeah, boy, it's almost like I lost track. It's as tragic as it sounds. It was probably about 5. The first time was 2015. So Paige and I had been married almost 18 years, and I just finally got worn down and eroded and thought, why don't I just give up and say, yeah, I guess I never was saved, and hopefully just get all this behind me, get all the doubt and questioning, and maybe my marriage will be, wonderful again. And of course, it just didn't happen.
So after all this happens, like 5 times in a row, after a while, you didn't want to give up on your marriage. You loved Paige. You just wanted the Paige you fell in love with. But it was very clear that she was going to take his side, not yours. It was very clear that it was him in her ears, not yours. And ultimately, you did divorce. But even getting divorced has not been the end of it. And what I think is really interesting about your story is, yes, divorces are tough for a lot of kids, but and sometimes parents can say bad things about another. It does happen. I even encountered that in my life when my parents divorced. But she really got to the kids. What was she telling them to kind of sour who you were as their dad?
Well, she told the kids I was the devil, literally, a Satan, a liar, a sperm donor, and a bloodline. And because, she believed in Uncle Robert, I had been brainwashed for maybe 2 or 3 years, but, I finally had my eyes and ears opened by the Lord, so I saw how awful this was. Thus, that made me a threat to her, to Uncle Robert, and to my kids. So she poisoned all the kids against me, and my lawyer, a guardian ad litem, several people, a counselor, said it was the worst case of parental alienation they had ever seen. It was bad.
Wow. And the good news is, those kiddos have started to come back to you. 3 of them live with you now and have said, I love you. Like you're kind of getting back on track with the kiddos. But before that time, you called it earlier, maybe Uncle Robert was on the narcissistic side. I mean, they were writing letters to you just overly confident that this was not going to go in your favor.
Yeah, I had a couple of the children say, one word from Uncle Robert and, you'd be in prison, that they had grown up and never really wanted to be like me. They always wanted to be like Uncle Robert. They were even told by Uncle Robert and Paige that the 5th commandment of the Bible that says, children are to honor their mother and father, didn't apply to me because it only applies to dads who love their kids, and they had been told I did not love their kids. And the kids believed it because, they trusted the adults that they were with at the time. So it certainly wasn't the kids' fault. They were put in a horrible situation.
Well, here's the weirdest thing. Uncle Robert isn't even family. Who is Uncle Robert? Like, how did he even hook his wheel to this family?
Correct. Uncle Robert's like, 5'6", almost 80, olive complexion, bulbous nose, jet black hair, born and raised in Syria, came to America, married an American woman, and met Paige's parents at a tiny little seminary in California before Paige was even born. So he was always this person of authority. He kind of got that position immediately with Paige's parents and then assumed it with all of their kids and has been in that position for over 50 years.
Well, you were saved as a young boy. You didn't need all those 5 savings. But
right.
I guess what I'm asking, my next question is, how do you unbrainwash yourself?
Boy, that is the $1 million question, right? And I always tell people, you never know you are in a cult. You only know you were in one. So nobody joins a cult. Nobody thinks they're in a cult. I didn't think I was in a cult. But on the way out, little things start to creep up, and you're like, oh, that wasn't right. And I just assumed everything Paige and Uncle Robert did were right. So for me, it was really 3 F's: faith, family, and friends. And much of that had been kind of squeezed out of my life because cults control people on secrecy, paranoia, and isolation. I was very isolated. I didn't tell my family for 4 months that my wife had left me. But as I slowly started to talk with them, I would share them emails Uncle Robert sent. They all saw it immediately. It took me, Nancy, a good year of being away from them, away from Uncle Robert and Paige, being surrounded by people that love me and see the truth, that I came out of it. And it took a while.
Peter, you didn't know any different, any better. I mean, you married her for the best of the intentions, and you tried to block out things that were weird. But at the end of the day, have you forgiven yourself? Do you even ever forgive them?
Have I forgiven myself? Yes. Not easy to do, but yes. Listen, if we didn't need forgiveness, we wouldn't need God, right? So none of us are perfect. My faith journey is not perfect, but it's my own. And it just shows that I needed a savior. Have I forgiven Paige? Yeah. I mean, a lot of people, if you read my book, and people that know her are quite angry at what she did. And she is accountable for that. But, she is a victim, just like I was, just like my kids were. It's at times very hard, but it is tragic to watch what he has done to her. Am I able to forgive Uncle Robert yet? That's a work in progress.
Mm-hmm. And that's an honest answer. Are you hopeful for the future that there will become peace? And I know that's hard to say because even today you're still dealing with, aspects of Paige and blending the family and healing the family after a divorce takes time. That just takes time. But are you hopeful that there will become peace?
No question. Because, once a parent, always a parent. So when my kids graduate high school and college, you get married, Paige and I are going to be there. Nobody wants it to be awkward. So for years, I have prayed that Paige would have a road to Damascus type moment, right? Like where Saul becomes Paul in the Bible. That the Lord will open her eyes and she'll see it. She'll see what Uncle Robert has done to her. I don't think we're ever going to get back together. That's not the goal. The goal is that there wouldn't be such acrimony because it's just not good for anybody and it's exhausting.
Mm-hmm. Boy, sometimes you just wish you could almost have a timeout and go back in time and make 14,500 and have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. This is the tough thing about life. And, I know your faith has been really important to you. And obviously you were saved as a young boy. But to our audience today who are, people of faith, what would you say to them to get through a hard time like you did?
Well, don't isolate yourself. Don't cut off communication or fellowship with other believers. If you sever the toe dies, the body doesn't. So stay connected with people. I read my Bible, but it's one thing to pray and read your Bible all by yourself, right? But it's another thing to do it with friends and family that share your faith, that can help you through those struggles. And as soon as I started relying on friends and other believers, that's when I came out of it. And that's what we're here for, to help each other.
Amen to that. I, too, just went through that myself. I feel like I really went through a sticky situation, and I too, had to lean on my faith and take those whispers, and it's so important to do. Peter, I want to thank you so much for sharing about this today because, like you said, it's not obvious you're in a cult. You only know when you're coming out of it. And, if I was going to ask you one last question, what does living full out mean to you?
Oh, well, no doubts, no regrets, no fear. A lot easier said than done. But really, it's the fear and the doubting. When you're in a cult, the cult leader is going to try and take over your mind and fill it with fear and doubt. Now I have so much less, and so life is better. So to me, that means living full out means without fear and doubt. Again, easier said than done, but that's the goal.
Gosh, again, amen to that, because it's that fear and doubt that keep us paralyzed in fear and make us worry about that next step. And if I take a step, will the bridge fall? So thank you so much, Peter, for being on today's show. And we're going to continue to pray for your family.
Thank you very much, Nancy. It's been great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Peter. And for everyone listening, gosh, whether you're in a cult like Peter in that situation, which is really just tricky is the word, because you're not really sure what the truth is. Whether you're dealing with a business partner situation that maybe has gone south, whether you feel betrayed by a friend, the thing is it comes back to being forgiving. And it is freeing to forgive others. And it's not easy to do in the moment of stickiness. it's hard to find those words and not just say the words, but actually mean them. So the quest is to actually mean them. And that might be, going to your church and talking it out. That might be journaling and feeling it through. But that is the ultimate goal to set yourself free, is to be able to be forgiving to others and also to yourself, because truly you're pretty awesome. And life is a beautiful adventure. It's just from time to time, we're going to take a wrong turn. It's going to get a little bumpy, and you just want to weather that storm. So we'll be coming right back after this break.
To some people, the sound of a baby babbling doesn't mean much. But that's not necessarily true. By 6 months, they're combining vowels and consonants. By 9 months, they're trying out different kinds of sounds. And by 12 months, their babbling is beginning to take on some meaning. Especially if there's no babbling at all. Little to no babbling by 12 months or later is just one of the possible signs of autism in children. Early screening and intervention can make a lifetime of difference and unlock a world of possibilities. Take the first step at autismspeaks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Most of us like to be out in the sun. That's why sunscreen and other safety measures are key to protecting your skin from aging and cancer. The FDA recommends using a sunscreen with a sun protection factor, or SPF, of 15 or higher. Also, look for broad spectrum on the label. That means both harmful ultraviolet A and B rays are blocked. UVA rays age the skin, UVB rays burn, and both cause cancer. But the perfect sunscreen doesn't count if you use it wrong. Don't need sunscreen on a cloudy day? Wrong. 80% of UV rays still get through the haze. Only use sunscreen at the beach? Nope. Anytime you're outside, UV rays attack the skin, so you need protection. And you have to reapply sunscreen every 2 hours. Remember, SPF plus broad spectrum equal healthy fun in the sun. Visit www.fda.gov/sunscreen for more information. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
Right now, our country feels divided, but there's a place where people are coming together.
I gotta tell you, I was nervous to talk to someone so different than me.
Me too, but I'm glad we are.
Love Has No Labels and One Small Step are helping people with different political views, beliefs, and life experiences come together through conversation, and it feels good.
Wow, your story is so...
Interesting?
Yeah.
When people actually sit down, talk, and listen to one another, they can break down boundaries and connect as human beings. At lovehasnolabels.com/onesmallstep, you can listen to amazing, life-changing conversations and find simple tools to start a conversation of your own.
I know one thing. This conversation gives me hope.
It gives me a lot of hope, too.
Take a step toward bringing our country and your community together by having the courage to start a conversation at lovehasnolabels.com/onesmallstep. A message from StoryCorps, Love Has No Labels, and the Ad Council.
All right, crew, let's get her dug.
Honey, you want to give me a hand? I'm planting that tree, remember?
No matter how large or small your digging project may be, no matter how urban or rural, you must always call 811 before any digging project. 811 is our national one-call number, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. You must call 811 at least 2 to 3 business days before any digging project, so you can avoid hitting our essential buried utilities. This includes natural gas and petroleum pipelines, electric, communication cables, and water and sewer lines. So before you do this or this, make sure you do this. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811. Brought to you by Common Ground Alliance.
When it comes to being forgiving, you really want to be by yourself. You want to think about the scenarios, think about the emotions, and then try to take out the emotion. Try to step back and really look at the situation with a fresh pair of eyes. And then approach the healing of yourself and others from a place that is higher level, from a place that is genuine. That's how you live full out.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a professional motivational speaker, Nancy can assist you to blow through your setbacks and start living full out. If you have an inspirational story you want to share, email us at connect@livingfullout.com. Once again, here's Nancy.
Thank you again for joining us today. I'm Nancy Solari, and this is the Living Full Out Show, and we're talking today about being forgiving. And, you know, I think that's walk is going to be for everyone to take, and sometimes you're going to run and not walk, and other times you can't go any further, and you just kind of have to sit down and ponder and think your next move. And that's okay. Again, the quest of life is to release past, release toxic people, release, the baggage, right? You want to find a way to focus on the present, the here, the now, feel the sweaty palms, be around friends and family that love you, look into the future, get excited about things that you can celebrate, milestones, achievements. But somehow you have to reconcile and forgive and let go of the past. And I know for me that has been hard as well. There was a time in my life when I was 10, and my dad went off and had an affair with his secretary, and they ended up getting married, and my parents got divorced. But I know years later, when I was like 35, it was really important to me that I had him come visit me. I lived in California at the time. He lived in Washington. And I didn't want there to be this unanswered questions. My dad was getting older. He had cancer, and I needed to know the why. Why did he do that? It kind of shaped the way I looked at marriage. It kind of shaped the way I looked at men, and I wanted to know why. And then I also wanted to know, going forward, what was it about the relationship with my mom that was different than the relationship with the woman he had the affair with that he ended up marrying? And where I'm going with this is I asked a lot of questions. And as I asked these questions, I kind of came to realize that I didn't know why my parents had ever married. They seemed so different. But I got to know his heart. And I think that his heart had always been a man who wanted to camp, a man who wanted to sail, an engineering-minded man. And my mom was different. She was, a partygoer and fun and traveler and just, really, she made the most beautiful cakes on every birthday anyone had. And she was really a great event planner and enjoyed, festivities and being with family. And I think he enjoyed, kind of more solitude and being alone and very smaller group. And it's interesting, when I got through that time with him, he was out visiting me for a couple of days, I told him I forgave him. I told him that, he rocked our family, he shook it up, each of us kids were affected in different ways, but that he was happy, my mom found her way to be happy, and therefore, he was forgiven. And maybe, just maybe, they got married in their early 20s, ended up having kids. In my life, I look back at how much I changed from 20 to 30, 30 to 40 and on. It's possible even he changed. So I think sometimes when we forgive people, we have to put ourselves in their shoes. And we have to ask questions, get to their heart, get to why they did certain actions in life. What were they thinking? And again, try to be empathetic to some of the stresses that they were going through. And then truly sometimes we have to, as part of forgiving, lean on our faith, because sometimes bad things happen, but in the end, it was for a better reason. I'm not saying that it wouldn't have been great if my parents hadn't been still together, but there was a lot of tension, a lot of anger from his side within the family. And I think I think my growing up was better with them divorced. And so sometimes it is better when you get around the bend, but it can be very heartbreaking. It can be very stressful when you're in the moment. So I encourage everybody today, when you're thinking about an aspect of your past, from your childhood, where maybe you felt wronged or you felt like you missed out or you were abused, to do what you can to try to heal that by, if you can, asking questions, getting to know, what really happened, and was there something that you just weren't privileged to, at the time? Maybe you were too young, maybe you didn't have all the facts. Or even if it's like a friendship you've had, again, there's two sides to every story, right? So somebody may have a knee-jerk reaction or pick at you or bully you or, yell at you. And then oftentimes I've learned that anger comes from a place of fear. They're fearful about something. Maybe they're fearful that it may have nothing to do with you, but maybe it's a fear from their past. And then you also want to look at your current day and just see, are the people in your life lifting you up to be your highest and best self? Because you get one life. And yes, you can turn the page, and yes, you can segue in and out of different relationships. But you don't want to spend any time unhappy if you can choose happiness. And that comes from forgiving and in some cases, letting go. Thank you so much today for listening, though. We really strive to bring inspirational guests that we feel will motivate you, inspire you, give you some pearls of wisdom. So if you have gone through something, reach out to us at connect@livingfullout.com. Perhaps we can have you on as an inspirational guest. And please know that I know forgiving is hard to do, but know that I believe in you. You can do this. And when you do, you will be living full out.
Thank you for listening to the Living Full Out Show with Nancy Solari. To learn more about this program, visit livingfullout.com for the latest episodes. Connect with the Living Full Out community by following us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and subscribing to our YouTube channel. Here's to you, living full out.